Hi, and welcome to episode 30 of the Give Me a Crown Knitting, Spinning and Bits and Pieces podcast. My name's Nina, also known as Give Me a Crown across the internet, and today is Monday the 2nd of May 2016. I was planning to record on Sunday, but there were some massive winds howling around the place, so I couldn't find a quiet place around the house to record. But it's Monday, and I'm recording now, and I've got a little bit more progress to show than what I would have done yesterday, so it's a win-win. This week I have some spinning and some knitting and some acquisitions. Not too many adventures. I might have a video of a few parrots at the end, so it was lovely to hear your comments about the images that I put at the end of last week's episode to show off a little bit about my new town. We have a Ravelry group, which you can find in the groups tab on Ravelry by searching for Give Me a Crown, so it would be lovely if you stopped by and said hello. At the moment we don't have a whole heap of chatter going on, but hopefully soon we'll have a new knit along to get some chatter happening. But if you are a member of the group, feel free to comment in there's a thread, I've forgotten the name of it, everyday chatter, that's it, in that thread, to show off some progress on projects or have a chat about some knit-alongs that you're taking part in. It'd be lovely to hear what you're up to. So the first work in progress is my broken seed stitch socks. I talked about these last week, so I won't go into too much detail, but this is as far as I've got. So I continued down the leg. I did a reinforced heel and heel turn, and then I've started on the foot. The pattern is by Hanna Niemi, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry, but it's more of a recipe or I guess a stitch pattern rather than a full-blown sort of sock pattern. So you do need to know a little bit about what you're doing, and I did not read the pattern too carefully, because once I started on the heel or on the foot, I started switching colours underneath the foot. So I've done socks before where I've alternated colours, and I thought that's a fine place to do it. I've tested them out. It didn't seem to be something that I could feel on my foot, so I did that, and then I happened to have the PDF open on my computer, and I stared at it, and it mentioned that you're meant to change colours where you change from the stockinette to the pattern, or to the what's it called, stitch pattern thing. I haven't had enough coffee today, so you'll have to excuse me. But yeah, so I ended up ripping back to the heel and then starting again on the foot, and I'm not sure if it would make a huge difference. I guess it's going to be nice that there isn't that jog of changing stripes underneath the foot, so the foot will be nice and neat, and I can't really see the impact of changing colours on the side, so that's actually a pretty good spot to do it if you're doing socks that have got patterning on the top and not on the bottom. So I'll share those with you as I keep moving along. My next work in progress is my gloves, and I've decided to call these my Malice gloves because that's the name of this Hedgehog Fibres sock yarn colourway. So this is my glove, but if you follow me on Instagram you'll know that that's actually the second glove, because I finished one. So I've unlocked my achievement of learning how to knit fingers. I have learnt a little bit while I've been figuring this out. I haven't followed a particular pattern. I made reference to a few different books and a few different patterns, just to find out how they suggested doing fingers. Some patterns go from the fingers down and some go from the cuff up. So I've decided I knit mine from the cuff up, and then starting with this finger, added it on. So this one's perhaps 1 or 2 rows short. It looks okay, but I just feel like it's stretching just a little bit, so I'm not sure whether I should wait until I block it, and then I'll see how it feels after that, and then I might pick up the stitches around the tip, unravel the top, and then knit it a little bit longer. The other fingers seem to go fine. They're the length that feels comfortable, that you don't feel like you have a glove on, whereas this one finger feels like I have a glove on. So I sort of did these fingers, then did the thumb, and I used a little bit of technique that I've learnt from sock knitting, in that when I was picking up stitches for each finger, I picked up extra stitches on the back and the front in order to get a neater sort of finish, to avoid any holes. And I made sure that I had very long tails on each of my fingers when I was starting them, so that I could use those tails to patch up any holes, but I didn't seem to have to do too much. I like the fact that I've got these strange little stripes going on in various places. I love the colour. From a distance they look pretty much brown, apart from this I'm not too sure what's going on there, but it's showing up a lot more on camera than what it does in person. In person it's barely noticeable that there's actually some striping going on there, and I guess over here on the little finger as well. But I love it, and it's nice and warm. I'm really happy with the Hedgehog Fibers yarn. It was really easy to knit with, and I'm looking forward to getting a second glove finished soon. I have put a few squares onto my sock yarn blanket, but I think with a number of other projects that I've got going on at the moment, I'll save those until I've got a few more squares on there so that I can show them all at once. But I have done some spinning. So some time ago, I think it was late last year, I went to Rylstone to the Convent and Chapel wool shop, and I showed some of the fibre that I picked up there. So it's an Ashford merino silk sliver. It's 80% New Zealand merino and 20% silk, and this is the poppy seed colourway, so it's blacks and whites and little bits of red in there. Now I'm guessing that the white is the silk. It tends to clump a little bit, doesn't draft as easily, and it seems to be a bit shorter in staple length than the other fibres in here, but it has been fun to spin up. And I know that one of my 2016 goals was to learn to spin a thicker yarn, but because I was wearing my Midnight in Sydney shawl last week from my own hand spun, it just made me want to spin some thin singles so that I can make myself another skein of yarn that I can use for a shawl. So considering it's blacks and greys and what have you, I figured that's my kind of colours. So this is as far as I've got so far. It's looking a shinier on camera than what it is in person, but they're fairly fine singles. I'm not sure if this will come up on camera. I'm using a short forward draw, and to be honest, I haven't really put too much thought into it. I'm just taking off a small amount of fibre, pre-drafting it a small amount, and then spinning. I haven't weighed my fibre. I think there is 100 grams in the amount that I bought, and I'm just going to fill up a bobbin, fill up another one, and then 2-ply it, and then whatever's left over I will probably chain ply, just so that I have some little minis to play with. I'm thinking about adding some of the hand spun that I've I've made into my sock yarn blanket, but I'm just a little bit scared that they might not hold up so well, but maybe I'm just imagining that. I know that other people are using hand spun in their sock yarn blankets, so maybe I should just give it a whirl. But I think, considering how far I've got, this might be a project that takes me a few weeks to get through. I'm just trying to take off a small amount of the fibre each day and spin that, so it might be 20 minutes of spinning or so, which might seem like a lot because I know that some people spin incredibly fast, but my spinning wheel, if you've watched the podcast before, I've mentioned it doesn't have any ratios, so I can't adjust how fast or slow I'm spinning, and I'm just kind of treadling away at the speed that I can get up to, and that's it. So I'm happy that I'm spinning again, and I am, however, really thinking about ordering some super crazy coloured fibre, something that, a braid that has got a dozen different colours in it or something, so that I could just have something very fun to play with when I do my thicker yarn experimentation. So maybe soon, and then I'll share that. My next work in progress is something that I'm very happy about. I was speaking last week and the week before about the Breathing Space pullover by Vera Välimäki. I hope you can't hear that rooster going off in the background. I was trying to avoid the rooster crowing moment of the day, but I seem to have hit it anyway. It doesn't seem to have a proper schedule like they always have in the storybooks. Anyway, on a tangent. Pullover. I've caught myself calling it a pullover, and I think the pattern is technically a tunic, and realistically I used to always call everything a jumper. So in Australia, if you pull it over your head, it's a jumper. I don't know, I think it's Ravelry that's caused me to start calling things a pullover. So anyway, I'll stick with pullover for now. But I was planning to knit the Breathing Space pullover, and it is from the Interpretations 3 collection that came out I think a few months ago, but I was busy moving, so I sort of missed the whole big reveal of it. And I really liked the pattern. So I'd seen quite a few different projects on Ravelry, and I had it in my mind that I really wanted to knit a brown version. So I got in touch with Miss Click Clack down in Melbourne and had a bit of a chat to her about potentially getting a dark brown yarn. So something darker than this that I'm wearing at the moment. This is, by the way, my folded pullover that I knit last year, I think it was. So yeah, something darker than this, sort of a rich brown colour. So it's a colour that I've got in my mind that it's a dream colour. Anyway, so we had a bit of a chat, but I went back to the Ravelry projects for the pattern, and I realised that I really liked the grey versions that had variegated yarns with them. So I changed my mind, put in my order, and I think I ordered it on last Sunday before I podcasted, and Monday was a public holiday, but my yarn arrived on Friday, so I had a bit of a skip in my step when I walked to the post office on Friday to pick up my yarn, and then I skipped my way home and I couldn't help myself. I had to cast on a swatch. So I have a swatch somewhere, and I have a feeling that I've now left it somewhere else. So hold on a minute. So I've got my swatch. So this is not a very big swatch. I have a tape measure, and it is, not including the garter edges, about 4.5 inches wide and about 2.25 inches tall. So what I tend to do with my swatches, because I'm impatient and I don't like wasting yarn, and I know that I can unravel it, but I look at the number of stitches in the patterns gauge, add on a few extra stitches, add on a few extra again for the sort of a garter edging, just so that the swatch lies flat, and then I knit for a few inches. So what that essentially gives me is a fairly good indication of my stitch gauge and a rough indication of my row gauge, because I find that I can, from the pullovers or jumpers that I've knit before, the row gauge is something that I can adjust fairly well as I'm knitting along. But although that's probably not that accurate, because then if I block it, it could go completely strange. Anyway, yeah, for me the stitch gauge is more important. I then gave it a bit of a wash, rolled it up in a towel, dried it off, and then got back to what I was meant to be doing for the rest of Friday, and then I cast on in the evening. So I checked what my gauge was. My gauge is a little bit off from what the pattern suggests, and I had been trying to figure out whether I should be casting on the small or the medium. The small was a bit smaller than my measurements, but the medium was a lot larger, because I think there was 4 inches in between the small and the medium. But I was getting it, after this had dried, I was getting a tighter stitch gauge and row gauge. So I figured that if I cast on the medium, it would sort of get closer towards the small without being too small. I hope that makes sense. I looked at the number of stitches around the underarm section and sort of checked that against my stitch count, my gauge, and it seemed to be falling where I wanted the measurement to be. So I figured that it was close enough. The row gauge I will just sort of keep an eye on as I'm going, and I have a bit of an idea, having washed this, sort of how much it grows after it's washed. So that's my little swatch, and I should show you some of my yarn. So what I ordered is in a bit of a tangle. I'll just show you 2 of them. So I ordered 3 skeins of this gorgeous There's a Bear in There in Merry Creek sock. So I ordered 3 just in case. I'm not entirely, I have a feeling that I'm not even going to break into the 3rd, but that's okay, because I like greys and I'm definitely going to find a use for this somewhere else. So that's Miss Click Clack's beautiful yarn swing tag. There's a Bear in There, Merry Creek sock, 374 meters to 100 grams, 80% Australian superwash merino, 20% nylon. And these are nice generous skeins. She tends to do quite a lot of skeins that are over 100 grams, so I think 2 of these are 108 and 1 is 109. And then my other yarn for the variegated stripes is this gorgeous yarn. So it's washing out a little bit with my camera because I haven't figured out the perfect lighting setup, but this one is called the Dappled Pony, and it really does remind me of a little pony, little white pony with these brown splotches on it, standing in a field that someone has perhaps thrown a bit of confetti at, because there are little splotches of blues and pinks in there. So it's just this pretty little pony out there having a fun old time, sort of glittering away in the sunshine. So I got those yarns. I managed to find my my yarn swift in one of my boxes and wound up my yarn, and I cast on. So I'm getting tangled again, but this is where I'm up to, and it's going to look a little bit weird but this is it's a top down pullover, and I've knit sort of the top and down to the first 3 stripes. So there are the beautiful stripes. So from a distance it's not too speckled, but it's just a perfect amount of speckling. And I'm now getting ready to split for the sleeves, and so what I did was I popped an extra cable. I had one cable on here, I think it was a 32-inch cable that had my needles on it. I took the needles off, attached another longer cable onto it, and then put my stoppers onto the end, just so that I could then put this over my head, check that it was pretty much sort of fitting under the armpits as I wanted it to be fitting, and it is. So I'm really happy, and I think it's going to turn out really, really nice. I had that moment with it over my head last night when I was just looking at it thinking, wow, it's gorgeous. And I have to control myself. I have sort of binge knit, so I wasn't too fussed about the fact that it was howling winds yesterday and I couldn't podcast because I got to get up to the stripy section. But I have to make sure that I'm not putting all my effort into just this one project. I do want to work on some others. So I think now that I've managed to get those stripes in there, I'll sort of slow down a little bit because I want to enjoy this knit. I really, really like the yarn. I love the way that it's turning out. So I will soon, probably in the next month or so. Which way am I going? That way, that way. I can't do the video in reverse thing. I'm sure that those who have watched before know that. But it will be beautiful. Eek. Except that I can't show it off when it's on the cables, but I think it's beautiful. So I'm gonna look like a pretty little pony. So very happy with that project. It's turning out exactly as I wanted to. I think if I'd have got a dark brown, it might not have had enough contrast with the variegated yarn, but nah, it would have been beautiful as well. So I am saving my plans for a beautiful brown for something else in the future, but for now I'm super happy with this one. One funny thing about the pattern was that it said that you need a 32-inch circular needle and some DPNs, which I presume meant for the sleeves, but it doesn't mention that for the neck you'd need to magic loop it or anything like that, so it does make a bit of an assumption at that point, but that's a fairly small detail. I don't think this is the kind of garment that somebody who is new to knitting would be picking up, so I did end up magic looping the neck using a smaller circular needle as I sort of got down along the neck, and then I finally got onto the 32-inch needle as I got a bit further along. So what else? I have some acquisitions. So on top of that yarn that I got from Miss Click Clack, I might have got one of her mini sets. Now Miss Click Clack's mini sets are definitely not your average mini set because they're huge. So this is the set that I got, and it has got oyster, it has got rufus, and I like rufus a lot, and one that I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce, Sauterne, not entirely sure what it means, but not coming up as well on camera as it should, but that's a bit more colour accurate for all three of them, and I've taken a picture on my Instagram of these. So I'm not entirely sure. I want to cast on for the Miss Click Clack sock Miss Click Clack sock block knit along that starts tomorrow, and it goes for 3 months, and these would be absolutely perfect together, and I would love these as socks. But I'm also thinking about adding perhaps 2 of the final stripes on my breathing space pullover in this colour. I have some other Miss Click Clack, and then I've got the dark grey colour as well, so I need to do some thinking and plotting and planning about what kind of socks to knit for that. So I hope to see a few of you in her Ravelry group chatting away about different socks. I think they're gorgeous. I actually love a pullover in those colours. So yeah, that's enough Miss Click Clack for today. I will be obviously talking more about her yarns as I make progress on my pullover. I had another acquisition. So I had a birthday while I was doing all my house moving, so I had a little bit of extra cash to splash on myself. So that's part of the reason why I've made a few purchases lately. So I got this project bag from Shop Luli. So she is on Etsy, and she has a wonderful podcast. She's from New Zealand originally, but living in England, and this is a small project bag with a drawstring and a handle. So this is a great size for socks, and I am looking forward to making use of it once I have a 1 skein project. At the moment my socks have 2 skeins on them, the broken seed stitch socks. I had a little bit of a snafu with the order, but Lee was incredibly responsive and helpful and sorted it out for me. So thank you, Lou. Thank you, thank you, Lee. I really do need some more coffee. Thank you, Lee, for sorting that out. Really much appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to putting some projects in the bag. And it's one of the things that I love about sort of the handmade community and shops on Etsy and what have you, and just the fact that you can have a chat with the person who's actually making your product, or fulfilling your order, or the person who looks after the brand and business and all that stuff. So if something does go wrong, then get in touch with them. The vast majority will be absolutely wonderful and look after you very well. So that goes for anyone who buys one of my bags. If there is anything ever wrong with something that you buy from me, or it's not what you expect, then I do have a returns policy, and I want to make sure that you're happy with your purchase. So always get in touch if you have a question. And that's pretty much it for this week. I have lots and lots of projects to go on with. There's been no big adventures. The weather's been a little bit crazy, sort of bucketing down with rain and then howling winds, and this morning it's been freezing cold. So, well, not freezing cold, but pretty close. I did take some video of some parrots the other day in the garden. I don't know exactly what kind of parrots they are, so I do need to investigate that, but there are so many different types of birds that it's hard to keep track of them. They're a little bit like rosellas in colour, but then they're also a little bit like king parrots in colour, and I think I need to look up a book and figure out how tall they are. And some birds just flew past in the window, but I think there were some other kind of parrots. But yeah, so I'll insert some video of some parrots in the video here, and that's it. So thank you very much for listening to me babble on about my projects. Maybe there's something in there that will spark your inspiration for a new project. If you have any questions or comments, please pop by the Ravelry group and comment in there, or send me a private message on Ravelry. I love to hear from you, or comment on the YouTube video. So it's been great to see some people commenting on the YouTube video recently, and it always makes me happy that that people are watching and taking the time to comment. I'll leave you there. I hope you're having fun. Hope you're getting lots of crafting done, and I'll see you soon.